everybody, it's John from John Talks Indian Cinema, back with a very special 10-minute review. That's right. I have just gotten back from the movie theater, where I have just seen Pushpa 2, The Rule. I posted a short as soon as I left the theater. It was only about a minute long, and I want to do this while it's fresh. I won't I won't do any spoilers. And frankly, there's not a lot of spoilers in it, to be honest with you. I'll try to be as broad as I can without giving any of the things away, if you haven't seen it. So it's obviously the sequel to Pushpa The Rise. It's again directed by Sukumar. It stars Allu Arjun, who I hadn't seen in his movies, and I loved him in the first one. I actually think, and I'm not going to do I usually do performance, blah blah blah. I'm not going to do that for this, but I definitely felt like the story in the first film was better than this story, and I'll get to that. But he's in 90% of this film. And he's got a big, he's iconic. He's iconic star. And he's really good in this. And obviously, so he stars in it. Fahadh Faasil, who wasn't in the first one very much, and I think a little underutilized in this. But when he is there, I'm a big fan of his. Rashmika Mandanna, who I've seen in Animal and Sita Raman, who in the first film is shy. She doesn't want to be kissed. Well, in this one, she wants to have sex with him all the time. I mean, she's blossom. And also Anasuya Bharadwaj, who was in Rangasthalam, who I've seen in Rangasthalam. So I felt like the first story, which is the rise of Pushpa, was a better story. This was base. What's the best way to describe the story? Pretty much the story is they have to get this sandalwood, 2,000 tons of it. They have to get it shipped so China can buy it. And it's how Fahad's character is going to stop him, because they make a little bet, and that's a great scene where if he can keep one log from being smuggled, he will give up the syndicate. And so that's the challenge, and that's really the film. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Roadrunner cartoons with Wile E. Coyote. Wile E. Coyote is always trying to capture the Roadrunner, but is always getting set up in his own traps. That's what this reminded me of, with Fahad's character and Allu's character. It's also a very funny movie. Very funny. It's almost like a domestic comedy. Him and Rashmika, who plays his wife, is really good in this. Their chemistry is really good, and she's very funny. And there's a lot of funny things around their relationship that, if he touches her, she wants, what did she say? She says, I have that feeling. Whenever she has that feeling, they end up, you know, so it's funny. Now, I will tell you, there was his entrance was fantastic. It opened up in Japan, and it's on this loading dock. And his entrance is his fight scene. And I won't give it away, but it's really good. Now, my complaint about it is it doesn't go anywhere. So it was like, okay. It almost reminded me of at the beginning of James Bond films. They always have that little thing before the credits. That's what it reminded me of, because it wasn't connected to anything else really. But it was great. It was a great way to start it. Um, so and really the film is about how they're going to transport this wood and how Pushpa's like one step ahead of Fafa's character, but Fafa ends up thinking he's got him. So it's that cat and mouse game between the two. And they're really great together. And there's a really funny scene where, and if you've seen the first film, you know what happens. He humiliates Fafa's character by having him strip his clothes. So the only way they can save the syndicate is for him to apologize to him in a public setting. And that scene is hilarious. That Pushpa, he's drinking, he's got to go and apologize, and he can't get the words out, and they're sitting at the table. Very, very funny. Very funny. Um, and there's so there's a lot of that. Oh, the other thing, okay, so there's an interval. And I've seen, I don't know, I think I've seen maybe eight of these movies in the movie theater, and every one of them have an interval. This was the first time that there was an intermission. It was a 10-minute intermission, and I understand why. It was over 3 hours and 30 minutes, I think. But it was the first time, so the lights come up and we got a 10-minute break. I haven't had that in any of these movies I've seen so far. Um, and there's callbacks to the first film. That if you remember the guy who flooded, who closed the dam, he's in this. That they have some references to it. Um, the surname is a big deal. Still, it comes up often. I don't want to give. I don't want to give. I will tell you that. Okay, there were my complaint about this film. There's two. Um, and I know that in these films, these guys are almost superheroes. But there's a scene, if you remember in the first film, he fought with his hands tied. Well, in this film, he fights with his hands tied and his legs tied. And he's fighting like 30 people. And there's these giant group fights where they're coming at him one at a time, like is typical. Now, the fight choreography is excellent. The way it's shot is they're excellent. There's not a ton of them, but they're really well done. It's kind of like, okay, at some point. And the other thing they did was at about the 3 hour and 5 minute mark, you're like, okay, what a great ending to this movie. And it was like it ended on a high note. And I'm like, oh man, that was so good. I hope they make another one. Then there's another 25 minutes, actually longer than that. And there was a really good fight scene in it, but I felt like it just made the movie longer and dragged it out. And it did. I know they had to do it because there's a very emotional thing that happens at the end, which I won't tell you what it is. But it was very emotional. But I felt like they could have done it in a much shorter amount of time and not have to go through this whole other. I just thought I really felt like it should have ended what I thought it was going to end instead of going this other route. So that I was a little disappointed about. I think the first film's better. This one's bigger, a lot bigger. Like all the scenes where they're smuggling the logs, whatever they're using to smuggle them, it's these big, long, caravans of whatever vehicle they're using. I won't tell you. And there's scenes like that with large groups. And the other thing is, I also want to tell you this: the music was really good. The incidental music I really, really liked, but the musical numbers, I really enjoyed them. And I don't usually, because some of them were just like all of a sudden they break out in this musical number. But they were good and they were huge. So many people. It was so well done. And he's got such a presence. I mean, he's not the greatest dancer. He's not. But his moves, he's very physical. And he doesn't look like John Abraham or what's his name? Shroff, Tiger Shroff. These guys are jacked, or Hrithik Roshan. He's not. But the stuff he's doing physically is really impressive. And the fact the first song is Pushpa, 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 because now he's a big spacone. He's a head of the syndicate, and the town loves him that he lives in. Oh, the second song is he's on the kitchen floor, and she's getting that feeling. So she seduces him on the floor. It turns into this beautiful number between the two, a funny number, and then it goes back to the kitchen where they just finished up. Um, Oh, third song. Okay, this was a big song. He finds out he's going to have a. Is this a spoiler? Nah, it's okay. You know what? It's a little bit of a spoiler. She finds out she's going to have a baby, and they do a big number. And I don't know where it was shot. I don't know if that's a studio, but there's lights everywhere. There's I don't know how many people they had in this, and it's Gango Renkua Thali. And that one that's the one where he dresses up as Shiva because he wants to have a girl instead of a boy, because if he has a boy, they won't have a surname. Where if the daughter got married, she could get a surname. So he's praying. And then she follows up the wife, and there's an elephant, and the song's he looks like a spark of fire, my man. Um, and then she gives like this impassioned speech about him that's really good. That was her highlight too. Again, I really liked her. She was very likable, so different than the first film where she's so shy. She was not shy in this film. Now there's political intrigue that happens, and everyone's working against each other. But the music, I love those dance numbers. They were really good. Um, so if I was to rate this using my scale of 1 to 5, I guess and I always do it a little higher because I see it in the movie theater. And by the way, there was about 20 people too, so that was kind of neat. Although, um, a couple of people brought little kids. I mean, like they sounded like they were 3 or 4 years old. I don't know if this was a film for 3 or 4 year olds. First of all, the length, but second of all, it was pretty violent. But I'd probably give this movie a 4. This guy Allu, he's very charismatic, and Fafa, and I said this at the beginning, when he's there, like he's just magnetic, and he's funny in this. He's a little crazy. But he's not. I thought I would have liked to have seen him in it more because it's Alu's movie. So maybe it's not to overshadow him. Maybe that would have happened. Like there's not a lot of scenes with them together, which I would have liked to have seen. There's one funny scene where I won't tell you what happens, but they confront each other, but one is down below at this, I don't know what it is, and Pushpa's up on this hill by the highway, and they're talking to each other with hand signals. They don't, you know, they're because they can't hear each other. It's a very, very funny scene. So like I said, it's a funny movie. Towards the end, it gets a little more dramatic. But yeah, I really like this movie, and I like seeing it in the movie theater too. And no spoiler, they set up Pushpa 3, which was what was it, The Reckoning or something. I think it's The Reckoning, if I remember right. Pushpa 3. Yeah, I didn't write it down, but I think it's Pushpa 3, The Reckoning. So it sounds to me like there's going to be a reckoning. Okay. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. Dance numbers, great. Action, good. I think you'll like it. If you like the first one, you'll definitely like this one. Although I think the first film is better. I think it's a better storytelling, where this was more almost like not a chase film, but it almost had that feel to it. But anyway, that's what I think. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section if you saw it. Do you agree? And that's it. So I'm going to get this one out fast, hopefully tomorrow. And let me know what you think. Okay, we'll talk to you soon on John Talks Indian Cine-MANIAC with another Tenishment review, but not from the theater. Not from the theater. Thanks for watching.
Zooby dooby zooby dooby nache क्यों पागल stupid man
Zooby dooby pampa
zooby dooby paramba.